Well, I'm out in the woods collecting mushrooms today, and uh, got caught by this rain and occasionally pretty bad thunderstorm out in the middle of kind of out in the middle of nowhere, pretty far from nothing. But it's been a great experience, and it reminded me of one of the reasons that I love doing this anyway, and I wanted to share that. Obviously, one of the great things about collecting wild mushrooms is you get a lot of good stuff to eat. But it's been such a nice experience, even with the rain, even with the thunder, because it reminds you of one of the reasons that you love doing it, which is that when you're out in the woods, away from everything, hunting mushrooms, the act of being there hunting mushrooms focuses your mind, and you're focused on what you're doing. Your attention is really there, and you're aware of things, and um, you're not thinking about your bills. You're not thinking about whether anybody has texted you while you've been out of cell range. You're not thinking about work. You're just really observing. And when you just get outside and observe, some wonderful things can happen. Just as an example of that, one of my greatest experiences of being in the woods mushroom hunting was a time when I had been out. I was very far from anything. I'd been out for probably close to 2 hours, and I'd gone off trail, which I often do, but I was out in the middle of nowhere, and I had crouched down by a tree to check out some mushrooms that were growing at the base of it. Not something edible I was going to pick, but just something I was checking out. And while I was crouched down there looking, I heard a crashing sound, and without getting up, I just turned my head and looked, and here comes this young deer, probably about a 1-year-old fawn, coming through the woods straight towards me, but not paying attention. It didn't notice me at all. It ran right by within probably about 10 feet, didn't turn its head. It had kind of, it looked exhausted. It looked terrified and exhausted. And it ran right by me within, like I said, about 10 feet, didn't look, and kept going. And I turned, watched it go. And before it was completely out of sight, I heard more noise coming, stayed right there and looked. And here comes a coyote, kind of head down low, trotting along after it, not really running, just a nice easy lope like he could do it all day. And he was chasing down that fawn, and he ran right by me within a few feet too, without having any clue that I was there. And no judgment about how sad it was for the fawn or anything. Just, this is nature happening, and I got to experience that. I got to be a part of something that I would not have gotten to be a part of without that experience. So, there's something to be said for making the decision to go out in the woods where if it rains, you're stuck getting wet, and telling yourself that you're going to be observant, you're going to really see what's out there, and maybe it'll nourish your body with fresh mushrooms. Uh, Maybe it'll nourish your soul. But it's another great reason to be out in the woods hunting mushrooms.